What if you could sleep only 5 hours a night and still feel like you were functioning normally? You wake up, you drink your coffee, you go to work, you get through the day. It might feel normal, but inside your brain, something very different could be happening. Because while you sleep, your brain isn't simply turned off, it's working. And when you consistently cut your sleep down to just 5 hours a night, you're taking away some of the time your brain needs to repair, organize, and reset itself. So what actually happens to your brain? Let's take a closer look. The first thing you may notice is that your brain becomes slower, not necessarily in an obvious way. You might still be able to work, talk, drive, or use your phone, but your reaction time, attention, and ability to process information can become worse when you're sleep deprived. Think about your brain like a computer. When the system is overloaded, everything still works, but it doesn't work as efficiently. That's what can happen when you repeatedly sleep only 5 hours. Your brain has less time to recover, and simple tasks can start requiring more mental effort. You may read the same sentence twice, forget why you walked into a room, lose your train of thought during a conversation, or stare at a screen while realizing you haven't actually processed what you're looking at. And the scary part? You may not realize how impaired you actually are. Sleep is extremely important for memory. During different stages of sleep, your brain processes information you've collected throughout the day. It's almost like your brain is sorting through thousands of files, deciding what to keep, what to organize, and what to connect. But if you constantly cut your sleep short, that process can be disrupted. You might remember something that happened yesterday, but struggle to remember details from a conversation. You may study for hours and still feel like the information isn't sticking. That's because learning doesn't end when you close the book. Your brain continues working on that information while you sleep. So if you regularly give your brain only 5 hours, you're giving it less time to complete that process. Now, imagine you're trying to concentrate on something important. You're watching a presentation, you're studying, you're working on a difficult task. Suddenly, your attention disappears. You check your phone, you look away, you lose your place. This isn't necessarily a lack of discipline. Sleep deprivation can make it harder for your brain to maintain attention, and the longer you're awake while sleep deprived, the harder it can become to stay mentally sharp. In extreme cases, your brain can experience brief periods called microsleeps. These are incredibly short episodes where parts of the brain essentially stop responding normally for a moment. You may not even realize they happened. And that's one reason sleep deprivation can become especially dangerous when you're driving or operating machinery. There's another surprising effect. Sleep doesn't just affect your thinking, it affects your emotions. When you're well rested, your brain is better able to regulate emotional reactions. But when you're sleep deprived, emotional control can become more difficult. Small problems can suddenly feel much bigger. You might become more impatient, more frustrated, or unusually sensitive. Someone says something completely normal, and somehow it gets on your nerves. That's because sleep deprivation can interfere with the brain systems involved in emotional regulation. So when you're running on 5 hours of sleep night after night, your brain may have a harder time keeping your emotions balanced. But here's something even more fascinating. While you sleep, your brain also appears to increase the movement of fluid through its tissues, helping clear certain waste products that build up during waking hours. This process is associated with the brain's glymphatic system. Think of it like overnight maintenance. During the day, your brain is busy processing information, making decisions, controlling your body, and responding to the world around you. At night, sleep gives the brain a chance to perform important maintenance functions. So when you repeatedly shorten your sleep, you're not just losing extra hours in bed, you're potentially cutting into the time your brain has available for these important processes. Here's where things can get frustrating. You sleep 5 hours. The next day, you're tired, so you drink more caffeine. You push yourself through the day. Then nighttime comes, but you're still working, scrolling, gaming, or watching videos. You sleep 5 hours again, and the cycle repeats. After several nights, you may start thinking, this is just how I am. But feeling used to sleep deprivation doesn't necessarily mean your brain has adapted perfectly to it. Sometimes you've simply become accustomed to feeling less than fully rested. For most adults, 5 hours of sleep is below the amount generally recommended for good health. Individual sleep needs can vary, but consistently sleeping only 5 hours isn't something your brain should have to rely on. And one short night is very different from making 5 hours your normal routine. If you occasionally get less sleep, your body can recover. But if 5 hours becomes your everyday schedule, the consequences can accumulate. Your attention can suffer, your memory can become less reliable, your emotional control can become harder, and your brain may not get the full amount of recovery time it needs. So, what happens to your brain when you sleep only 5 hours a night? It doesn't simply become tired. It can become slower at processing information, less reliable at forming and recalling memories, more easily distracted, and less effective at regulating emotions. And perhaps the biggest problem is that you may feel like you're functioning normally, while your brain is quietly operating below its best. Sleep isn't wasted time. It's part of your brain's maintenance system. So the next time you think about sacrificing another hour of sleep to get more work done, remember this. Your brain isn't asking for sleep because it's being lazy. It's asking because it has work to do. And sometimes, the most productive thing you can do is simply close your eyes and let your brain recover.